I want to share a quick story that I had a lot of fun with. I've had a really incredible opportunity that was life changing, and it's one that I'm just so thankful for. That I got to spend a good bit of time with my Amish friends in Michigan and Indiana. I had the distinct honor of being invited to a home, and I got to stay in a cabin just a few feet from where my beautiful Amish friends lived. I got to take the kids to school. I got to take mom and dad on errands with my car. Just a lot of good experiences. I'll share one particular today, though. These kids that I took to school were like, at that time, like say 6 and 8 years old, and maybe 9 at that point for the oldest one, a boy and a girl, oldest one being a boy. And their beautiful mother, when I took them to school, when she would always come outside, no matter what the weather was, she'd always come outside and wave to the children as we left the yard. And so the Amanda waved back she was sitting in kind of the middle, so she really didn't have as much opportunity as Aiden did to wave back at mom. And I said, that's no way to wave at mom, because we had a fun time playing around with the kids, and we had a really good relationship. And I said, there's no way to wave at mom. Look at her, she's so special out there waving. And so they waved like that, And so Aiden kind of helped Amanda, his sister, because she was kind of twisted in there. And so I came up with this idea. So, Aiden, you know what you ought to do? You were really good at helping fix Amanda's waiver. I called waiver like your hand. I said, look at how quick you did that. And most of us know with the Amish, they have a lot of cottage industries. They might make saddles, they might make all kinds of things, or leather goods, And I said, what you ought to do is open up Aiden's waiver shop. And I said, that way people like Amanda who have trouble waving, they could come see you and you could help straighten it out. You could get them going. Well, that was just a couple minutes that lasted and we drove on off. But me calling attention to that, though, it really did make such a difference in the way the children from then on waved at their mother. When they were coming home or when they left, those waves would be going. And I would make that comment again about, wow, Aiden, you really are good at fixing waivers. And so the way the roads were laid out up in Michigan, they were gravel roads, but laid out like 2 miles and parallel to each other or rectangles. And so a lot of times we could see people coming, and they knew most of the people in that community. And so some people would just say, let's say somebody waved a little bit like this. The kids would say, I think that guy's waiver's broken. And I would say, they need you, Aiden. They need you to fix that. Because it's not the same. When we meet that person, because there was a white-haired Amish man. And I just, when I was in that area, I just hoped to see him. He had a long white beard. He'd have an open wagon. And when you saw him, he'd be like, and man, that's all the spirit charge you needed for that day. Remember? Leaning moments, waving, and those are our antidepressants. Those are nature's antidepressants. And that's why we need each other. I needed that Amish man. So we need to make those connections. And so, but it became such a fun thing with the kids. They would do it all the time. I didn't have to do any kind of prodding. They would just say, oh, that person's got a good waiver. Oh, that waiver's broken, And so actually one day we had a sign made that said Aiden's Waiver Shop. I had it made from a sign shop. And so sometimes, here's a lesson in this story, that like with Wendell Troyer, I didn't give up, the kids didn't give up, because only leaners produce leaners. But that story is one of the best memories, again, that I have about creating those leaning moments in the waiver shop. I was talking about with Aiden being having the cottage industry of having his waving shop. And I wrote a story about this one time, kind of like seeing people come by and say, my mom and dad didn't wave that much, and my mom and dad weren't leaners. It's kind of hard for me to be a leaner. So I had this just imaginary story of a place where Aiden would say, well, here's what you do. You lean in. And he would teach people how to do that to go back out. Well, in reality, what happened was, there was so much more leaning moments between the children and their parents when they would come home or when they left to go to school. They created more leaning moments in the neighborhood. They were actually Aiden and the children were, and I've told this in another video about a beautiful story that I shared. They kept waving at a man. They kept waving for a long time, and then finally, that man started waving back. Someone they'd known for many, many years. And so they were able to create lots of lean-in moments. They increased the waving in their community because they knew from our little story, lean at your mom, she's very important, you know. And I knew what a beautiful mom she was. And I wanted them to appreciate the fact that nobody else did that. Nobody that I knew did that. But even though she had other children, smaller children, she would still come outside and wave bye to those children. That's what children are missing. That's what a lot of us are missing, because children don't get that. Not even all the Amish children get that. But these children got to experience a beautiful mother and creating those lean-in moments. Remember, lean-in moments are what love is. By doing this, they can say, I love that mom easier. I watched it like a dimmer switch in that family. The more we created lean-in moments, you could just see it, like you turn it up. The children got brighter. The relationship in the family got better. Mom and dad, everyone got closer. And I can remember the mom saying, you know, my husband, I used to be more of a leaner, but I think now he's more of a leaner than I am. Remember, only leaners produce more leaners. And so it's really a very simple concept, but if we don't do it, the opposite is true. Spirits go down, people deal with alcohol, drugs, and unfortunately, the antidepressants. So the waving is a very powerful lean-in moment, because it's one that we can do from a distance. We don't always have to be close for doing that. So thank you. Create more lean-in moments, because only leaners produce leaners.